Before I begin this video, I'm going to point out something obvious. I am missing a tooth. That's right, one of my bottom teeth got knocked out at the pool yesterday, having some fun. Anyway, it happens. I am going to get it replaced. It's going to take a few weeks. I've got to replace some other teeth down on my bottom row as well, so just going to get it all done together, and that's just going to take some time. So anyway, you're going to see me without a tooth, and it's kind of funny, so feel free to roast me in the comments. Anyway, there you go. Let's jump ahead. The reason you clicked on this video, right? Lue Elizondo has released a shocking statement on the Good Trouble show with Matt Ford. They broke the story, link in the description if you want to check that out. In this video, I'm going to be reading Lue Elizondo's statement and showing you a clip further down the line in the same video that Matt Ford released. Ross Coulthart was his guest, and they talked about something very interesting as well that I don't see anybody talking about, so I'm going to be sharing that clip, so make sure to stay tuned to the end to hear that. But first, let's just start with this statement from Lue Elizondo. Again, shocking. Let's go. Here we go. When people first inquired about my story, the Pentagon initially confirmed my role in ATIP and the focus of its efforts. Shortly after Secretary Mattis left the department, the Pentagon changed its tune by saying all my emails had been deleted. The same emails that would substantiate not only my claims, but many of those who were part of the ATIP effort, including one of its sponsors, the late Senator Harry Reid. So, real quick before I go to the next part, remember I had John Greenwald Jr. on yesterday to talk about this same email that they're going to be talking about in this statement that got released. So please check out my interview yesterday with John Greenwald Jr. for more context about this statement from Lue Elizondo. And remember, ATIP was the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It was one of an office to study UFOs, right, from the Pentagon. But there's been a lot of, mystery, depending on who you talk to, surrounding did Lue Elizondo actually run ATIP? Was ATIP even really a program, right? Lue Elizondo says, yes, it was. And other people say, no, it wasn't, right? And basically his statement is that he's saying that the Pentagon has been trying to sort of erase his history of what he did with ATIP, right? And all of Lue Elizondo's emails did get deleted, erased way ahead of schedule. Again, we talk about that in my interview with John Greenwald Jr. And Lue Elizondo will mention John Greenwald Jr., not by name, but he will mention him in this statement. Again, perfect timing. Yesterday, that's what we spoke about. And then after our interview, this gets made public, this statement, right? So anyway, let's go to the next part here. Later, when confronted with the FOIA request, the Pentagon denied again the existence of any email or correspondence between me and other seniors within the department whom I was regularly engaged with until the day I left the Pentagon in 2017. Recently, one of my emails was leaked by an unknown person on Reddit. This time, when the Pentagon was challenged with the existence of the email, in this case, one that described the authorized transfer of ATIP leadership responsibilities to another senior member of the department and endorsed by the Secretary of Defense front office, they were forced to admit this email existed and was not deleted as they previously claimed. Begrudgingly, when the Pentagon finally did release the email proving my role and participation in ATIP, the Pentagon decided to redact the mention of ATIP, citing FOIA exemptions. By this logic, they would also have to redact the name Arrow and any other office at the Pentagon. I agree with Lue here. And again, this email that they're speaking of, again, John and I covered it in our interview yesterday. Okay, John's the one that sort of broke this story in a lot of ways. So it is interesting, right? How can there be no program and Lue wasn't responsible for it if emails show that Lue was passing the responsibilities on to someone else and they were accepting it for this program? It doesn't make any sense. Right? I mean, that kind of proves that ATIP existed, and it proves that Luis Elizondo ran it and he passed off leadership to someone else, right? Now, you could argue how effective was ATIP all you want. But right now, the situation is just revolving around, did ATIP even exist as an actual program? Was it a side project? Was it just a little portfolio? Was it, we getting into semantics? I don't know. It's like if someone said, oh, I got my own business. And in your head, you imagine an office building with employees and, stuff happening, a parking lot, right? All this stuff. When really it's just a guy in his basement by himself, working the business, right? Does that matter? The business is still the business. Is the service taken care of? At the end of the day, that's all all that matters. So I don't know if it actually matters getting into the semantics of what ATIP is or wasn't, or who ran, or what was it effective? What did it do? What did it uncover? That's all that matters. Call it whatever you want. What did it lead to? What did ATIP uncover, or what did ATIP provide? Right? What good came from it? That's all that really matters. You can argue all day about everything else. Right? So I understand Lue's concern here that his image, reputation, legacy is getting whitewashed, erased a little bit. I get that. If I worked at a place for a long time and then my role there was downplayed, or, that would suck. And I've been there. I remember, this is totally not even the same, but you'll get my point. I remember working at a restaurant one time, a wine bar actually, that I was managing. I was the general manager of this wine bar. Left the place, working at a new place years later, and I remember somebody coming up to me at the bar, an old friend came up and was like, hey, dude, there's this guy, Mark, that used to work with us at this place. Mark's going around telling people he was the GM of this wine bar, And I'm like, okay. And honestly, just let it go. I don't care. I don't care about that. But it's kind of the same thing, right? Someone trying to take credit for what you did, right? Is that what's happening? Luis Elizondo ran this thing and you got other people trying to take credit for it, right? Again, at the end of the day, I don't know if it matters. I think the only thing that matters is that what came of ATIP, right? And what did ATIP launch, right? ATIP led to other programs being started, other interest in this. So I see it as a good thing, right? And we can argue all day over what this and that was, and what nameplate and what tag and what title and what, who cares? Was what happened? What good came of it, right? What did ATIP accomplish? I would say a lot. At the end of the day, we got a couple of videos released. The UAP conversation catapulted into the public eye like no one else has done. So regardless of how you feel about Luis Elizondo, he did make that happen in a lot of ways with Chris Mellon and some other people, right? You just can't take that away from him. Again, regardless of how you feel about the semantics of what his title or what he did was. So the Pentagon going out of their way to erase his emails. Again, there's always all this sus, listen to me. It's only 18 years old. Suspicious activity around things that people go, oh, there's nothing there. But then why is there all this smoke and suspicious activity around it? Doesn't make any sense. So the Pentagon is going out of the way to silence Luis Elizondo and silence and whitewash and, his role and what he did at the Pentagon. And this is the email that we covered, okay, yesterday in my interview with John Greenwald Jr., right? So this one gets released first, unredacted. You can see the whole thing, right? And then this is what, when John goes to FOIA it, this is what he gets back. Why are they redacting it now? Right? And we go over in our interview what this means, B5, B6, why they redacted it, right? So please check out my interview with John Greenwald Jr. for a real more intensive look at this, right? And Lue Elizondo kind of touches on it in his statement a little bit, right? It's just interesting, right? Again, helps you better assume the new responsibilities for ATIP. So clearly ATIP was a program, and clearly Lue Elizondo was passing off leadership to someone else, passing it off. If you pass off the baton, that means you had it to pass it off to begin with, right? All right, let's continue the statement. It should also be noted that the Pentagon's mouthpiece for this is one individual within the Public Affairs Office who has been given sole authority to handle all FOIA requests involving UAPs, AARO, ATIP, and specifically me, meaning Lue Elizondo. All this information is in the public sphere and can be easily verified thanks to the works of certain private citizens fighting for increased government transparency through the FOIA process. John Greenwald Jr., right? This is who he's talking about. And again, I had John Greenwald Jr. on yesterday from the Black Vault. We spoke about how him and Lue Elizondo sort of patched things up on Twitter days before this statement gets released, right? Lue Elizondo unblocks John Greenwald Jr. and sort of thanks him for what he's doing, right? And you even heard Matt Ford give some props to John Greenwald Jr. in their interview, right? And yeah, I don't know, man. I think my interview with John Greenwald Jr. had a lot to do with Lue Elizondo's statement going out in some way or shape or form. You know, I do. So props to John, man, for sticking to his guns and doing his thing. And I would say the same thing about Lue Elizondo. Props to him for sticking to his guns and doing his thing. You know, both of them. Again, we work stronger together. Simply put, right here, simply put, you and Congress continue to be lied to by a few at the Pentagon. That's important to remember, too, by a few at the Pentagon, who prefer to view you and the American people as sheeple. Make no mistake, the Pentagon Public Affairs Office has a long history of feeding misinformation to certain questionable journalists to mislead the American public. And that relationship is alive and well today and is, in fact, now legal through a new and disturbing policy of perception management. That's interesting. So there's this new policy called perception management. I mean, that just sounds like 1984 Big Brother, doesn't it? Like perception management activated. We must manage perception. The Pentagon does not look good. We must now trash Lue Elizondo. You know, it's like, and who else are they going after? Imagine giving your whole life to working for the government and then they treat you like this. Again, I think regardless of how you feel about Lue Elizondo, the way he's been treated by the Pentagon is kind of disgraceful, if I'm being honest, right? Again, regardless of how you feel about him, it is. It's disgraceful. So this isn't the end of his statement. The next part I'm about to read is the part that's being shared all over Twitter and everywhere. And it is, like I said, shocking. Let's read it. To add insult to injury, I was notified yesterday that there may be a personal threat against myself and several other whistleblowers formerly associated with the UAP effort for the U.S. government. As such, I would like to make this perfectly clear to the American people. I am not prone to accidents. I am not suicidal. I am not abusing drugs. I am not engaged in any illicit activities. If something happens to me or my family members in the future, you will know what happened. Wow. Again, that's disturbing, right? Just like we said about Sean Kirkpatrick, no one should be threatened. No one. It's ridiculous. And to know that Lue Elizondo, maybe his friends, his family, himself, threats against him and his family, and he has to make, you know, this statement, which people make to sort of protect themselves, right? I'm just going to say 2 Boeing whistleblowers have somehow ended up unalive, right? If you don't think it happens, it does. What do you think people will do to protect billions of dollars, trillions, otherworldly technology, right? Information that could change humanity forever. You don't think anything and everything would be done to cover that up? And he signed it, Lue Elizondo, former director, Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Yeah, I was quite disturbed by this, if I'm being honest. And again, this statement was given exclusively to the Good Trouble Show with Matt Ford. Again, link in the description. You can watch the whole episode. He's got an interview with Ross Coulthard as well, and he, it's a great episode. So again, check it out. Some other interesting tidbits about this statement. All right, let me read them. This is from UFO Joe on Twitter. Apparently, Luis Elizondo was in the live chat. Which you can't watch the live chat replay. That's not on. So you won't be able to see this. So I can't actually verify it. But I've never known UFO Joe to, just make something up like this, like at all. So 1,000% I believe it. I guess, again, Lue Elizondo in the chat said, Ross is correct. It's not everyone in the Pentagon. It's just a few that have forgotten their oaths to the American people. So I guess Lue wants to make that clear, and so does Ross. They're not putting the entire Pentagon into this, right? It's just a few people at the Pentagon who are going out of their way to smear Luis Elizondo. And for what reason? Right? Let's say, what does it matter if Luis Elizondo was the director of ATIP? Just what does it matter? Okay, he was. Okay, and let's move on. Again, what did they accomplish? What do they have to show for it? We can argue about your title and this all day long. All that matters is what came of it. And I think a lot of people can say that a lot of good came from ATIP regardless. It's just the conversation of talking about ATIP has brought about positive movements in this community, right? And again, however you think about disclosure or what's happening, there's many steps to get to what you might quote unquote call even basic disclosure from our government, right? That we are not alone. So, curious to read the comments, what people are going to say. But one thing I will say that's come out of this that's good is Luis Elizondo, Matt Ford, Ross Coulthard giving props to John Greenwald Jr. from the Black Vault. Thank you. It's about time, and I appreciate that. And again, go check out our interview. It's phenomenal. Definitely more context to what Luis Elizondo is talking about. And I hope Luis Elizondo will unblock Vetted on Twitter, because we don't even know why we're blocked. Again, I've never tagged him in anything. I've never commented on one of his posts. Nothing. Never. Never trolled, never messaged him. Nothing. Literally have never interacted on Twitter with him, ever. But regardless, it is what it is. I'm not on Twitter very much, so, I don't interact with anybody. So, if we're blocked, we're blocked. It's all good. Doesn't matter. I don't need to be not blocked to do what I do. So, but anyway, there's some more context. Now, UFO Joe as well also tweeted this out, which I found interesting. Right? So I'm just going to play it, and then we'll discuss it.
I understood going out I was going to get a tremendous amount of ridicule, and I'm still getting that ridicule because people don't know my intentions. They don't know what we did in the last 10 years, and understandably, some people are mad. Since I've left, I've received 2 threats from people inside that building, which to me is almost unfathomable. I've had my security clearance threatened, and then I had someone call me and actually tell me maybe I should be threatened for my personal safety. Now, that's kind of seems crazy and a little bit ridiculous, I understand, but it nonetheless happened. And that's a problem for me. It's a problem because I'm trying to allow our country to have a conversation, and in the end, this is not under the fact that there are things we can't explain is not the providence of any government or any institution. It's just like Galileo making the point that the Earth was not the center of the solar system. That is not a classifiable fact. So my point being is if this is something that the American people think is important enough to make a national security priority, then they need to have the conversation and let them decide. In the end, I really don't care what the American people decide as long as they have the ability to make that decision themselves. But to keep that information from the American people and not even have a conversation, that is a problem.
What do you want me to say? I 1,000% agree with all that that he said, and I'm, look, there's no question that he's being threatened. So I know there's going to be people in the comments, oh, you weren't threatened, Lue Elizondo. Again, regardless of how you feel about it, let's be real. He was absolutely more than likely threatened. Now, maybe not in the way you think or want or whatever, but that's sad to hear. And this is from a couple years ago, right? So this isn't recent, this clip I just played for you. But I find it interesting, and the bigger point there is the conversation, right? Bringing this into the public sphere so that we can have a conversation about this openly. And like he said, isn't whatever decision the American people make, but as long as we get to make that decision ourselves and we get all the information available to us to make a more informed decision, and having this conversation openly, civilly, and respectfully. We have to be the change that we want to see. I know it sounds cliche, right? If we want to talk about threats and that shouldn't be allowed and this and that, I can tell you right now on Twitter, people threaten other people who are supporters of Lue Elizondo, who back him up. They threaten people all day long on Twitter. So if you want the threats to go away, you've got to start with yourselves. Those of you on Twitter who are doing that. You can't do the same thing. Look what it causes. Look what Lue Elizondo's having to deal with this threat, right? Again, this whole idea that the ends justify the means, and let's play dirty too, and, disclosure. Let's go for disclosure. You're anti-disclosure. You're pro-disclosure. We all want the truth. Forget disclosure. We want the truth. Whatever that is. Right? And we deserve that. And again, like Lue Elizondo said. So let's all come together. Let's stop threatening each other. Right? It's childish. It's illegal to some extent, depending on what threats are being made. And it gets us nowhere. Right? Literally nowhere. No matter what your goal is. If your goal is, oh, I think this is all bullshit, so I want to convince other people this is bullshit, threatening is not the way to go. Okay? Catch more flies with honey. If you believe that this UAP phenomenon is real and you want the people to know about it and to be aware, then threatening people is not the way to go. There's no scenario of whatever your goal is where threatening helps your cause. So whatever your cause is, that is not the way to go about it. So anything other than that is strictly someone being a sociopath and wanting to cause problems no matter what. A disruptor. And anyone who knows me well enough on Vetted knows I am not a fan of disruption like that. Everyone's allowed their opinion. Just don't be disruptive about it. Right? So whatever your cause is, let's come together and work on this together. I think everyone's goal should be just the truth. And then from there, we're all going to accept truths different ways. It's just how it is. hearing this about Lue Elizondo is shocking. I hope he's okay. I hope his family's okay. Of course, I don't want anything to happen to him or his family or anybody for that matter, even Sean Kirkpatrick, anybody. I mean, what are we talking about? We're all human beings. So, yeah, quite fascinating. All right, look, let's go to this last clip again from the same video from the Good Trouble show of him releasing Lue Elizondo's statement. Ross Coulthart said this.
Of those articles. And one of the things I got leaked recently is the names of people working in Meta, Facebook, and Google. And I haven't publicized this yet, but I'll tell you about it. There are people formerly working in perception operations in the CIA and the intelligence community who are now working inside social media organizations. I've got those people's CVs. I know who they are. And I'm just waiting to see eventually when we can use it. I know a lot more than I'm able to discuss publicly because I know how these organizations play. They're using perception management, disinformation, exactly as they did right back in 1974, 75, 76, when Nixon was trying to put out the fires of Watergate. What we are seeing here, Matt, is the slow burning embers of a national scandal. And sooner or later, it's going to come out into the open. And what's happening at the moment is there are people behind the scenes who are coming forward. And I get kind of bored, really, with people in the UAP, UFO community who treat this as entertainment. They get angry. They say, why is my weekly serve of new information about UAP stuff not coming up on my plate? And what they don't understand is the level of work and investigation that has to be done to crack this stuff without compromising sources. And believe me, that work is being done right now. There are more people coming forward, quietly providing people like me and congressional oversight committees information about blatant criminality and illegality involving the program. And it's going to come out. Mark my words.
It is absolutely going to come out, and names, as you mentioned.
Wow. So there you go. Ross Coulthart has the resumes. That's what CV is of what he's claiming to be. Plants, government plants, CIA plants that work at social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, right? TikTok? I don't know. Twitter? Right? Who are suppressing information and boosting other information, right? Depending on what they want. And he might release that so we would know who they are. I don't know if he put them on blast. I mean, you'd have to be really sure of that. Right. And I don't think you could if they work for the CIA, I don't think you could just do that. Does that surprise me? No. I would imagine that there are plants within, big companies within our, American companies, not just Facebook, right? The news companies. Let's be real. For all purposes, not just to suppress the UAP discussion, right? Political, everything. Let's be real. Economical information, right? Just everything. That's disturbing. Clearly, he doesn't have the resumes for everyone. And I wonder how he would verify that to even be true. You know what I'm saying? But that is interesting. So, I don't know. Curious to read the comments on that, too, on Ross Coulthart's statements there. Kind of a bombshell, right? Just pop that at the end of this video. Anyway, me and my missing tooth, thank y'all so much for for watching today's video. Tonight, I am going to be doing a live stream, a special late night vetted live stream, a Q&A, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So please join me. I am going basically the Michael Herrera story. If you don't know already, check those videos out on our channel. Michael Herrera made 2 videos. One of them had an interview. And within those 2 videos, I had interviewed this anonymous investigator who had looked into Michael Herrera's story. His name is Joey Is Not My Name. That's his pseudonym. And he's going to be joining me on the live stream to clear up some discrepancies in the videos that I made that he thinks there were, and answer any questions that people might have. And again, Michael Herrera has declined one last time an interview with me. I keep asked one last time. He has declined an interview, but thanked me for asking. I'm not sure. That's what Joey's on my name said. So anyway, that's going to be tonight. Again, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Join me and Joey to talk about the case. And Michael Herrera did respond to Vetted through another podcaster and released a statement. So we're going to be reading that statement. And I have some comments of my own about it that I haven't spoken about publicly, and I'm going to bring that up at the top of the live stream tonight at 8 p.m. So join me tonight to find out what I say about it. Just been waiting for the right time, and this live stream is going to be it. Nathan, who was Michael's team leader, who I interviewed, right? I have the only interview with Nathan, and he's not going to do another one. He was going to join us on the live stream tonight, but he is not going to be doing a live stream to answer any more questions. I think he's going to step away from the scene for a little bit. He basically he told me he made his peace, in that interview, and just going to leave that there for now. Who knows down the road. I didn't push him. I didn't press him. He said he spoke with his wife and, just felt that was best. Okay. No problem. Because Michael Herrera kind of threw out his whole name. I chose not to use his name, right? But Michael decided to put out his whole name and, he wanted to be anonymous, which I didn't think was cool. But anyway, I'll get into that in my statement or my response to Michael's statement tonight in the live stream. So, it's going to be quite interesting, I must say, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm really glad Joey Is Not My Name is going to be joining, and just going to let him, say his piece too and say his things. And he'll kind of be speaking for Michael probably in a lot of ways. So, join us tonight. Should be fun. All right. I'll see you guys in the Vetted Discord after party. Again, I only do that after the premiere of the video, but either way, please join the Discord. Link is in the description. Conversations happening 24/7 in there. So, all right, we'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Me and my missing tooth. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. There's some balloons for you. Peace.